Welcome to the Resilient Retail Game Plan, a podcast for anyone wanting to start, grow or scale a profitable creative product business with me, Catherine Eardley. The Resilient Retail Game Plan is a podcast dedicated to one thing, breaking down the concepts and tools that I've gathered from 20 years in the retail industry and showing you how you can use them in your business. This is the real nuts and bolts of running a successful product business, broken down in an easy, accessible way. This is not a podcast about learning how to make your business look good. It's the tools and techniques that will make you and your business feel good. Confidently plan, launch and manage your products, and feel in control of your sales numbers and cash flow to help you build a resilient retail business. Welcome to episode 102 of the Resilient Retail Game Plan. I'm your host, Catherine Eardley, as well as the founder of the Resilient Retail Club, which is my membership for product businesses. Find out more at resilientretailclub.com. And if you use the code 10podcast, that's 10podcast, you can get £10 off your first month. Today, I'm delighted to welcome to the podcast Sarah Jordan. She runs the ethical organic cotton underwear brand Y.O.U Underwear. And she's talking to us today specifically about something called B Corp. B Corp is a certification that is growing in popularity. It's certainly growing in the public's awareness of what it means. And at its heart, it's all about businesses doing better. She talks through how Y.O.U Underwear decided to go for the B Corp certification, what it's meant for her and her business, and how it feels to be named the number one B Corp in the UK and the number one clothing B Corp in the world. Sarah, thank you so much for joining me. Do you want to start off by introducing yourself and Y.O.U Underwear?
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you so much for inviting me. Yes, I am Sarah, founder and CEO of Y.O.U Underwear, which is what I call a sustainable underwear business.
And you started it how long ago now?
Well, it was a bit of a complicated journey. So officially, with the idea, the kind of inspiration came in 2016.
Okay.
When I was in Uganda and saw essentially the main problem that we sort of set out to solve. We officially launched in 2018. So it's kind of been a bit of a journey since then, but 3 or 4 years, depending on how you count it.
I see, got you. And the problem being that there wasn't access to underwear for everybody particularly where you were in Uganda, right?
Yeah, certainly. So I was volunteering out there, working with local communities and supporting a group of female business owners. And the big problem that we discovered, they were making sanitary towels and nappies for themselves, the local community, and to sell as a small business. But it turned out a lot of the women locally didn't have any underwear. So you couldn't use the product because they didn't have any underwear to put it in. So their business was struggling, but more fundamentally, the impact on them as people was just fundamental. And it really struck me because you can imagine the kind of health and hygiene issues. Underwear is literally the first thing we put on in the morning.
Yeah.
But if you don't have it, and it was impacting about 1 in 10 of the women in the local communities, and they were missing sort of from 9 or 10 up, they were missing a week of schooling each month. So when they had their periods, they couldn't go to school because they didn't have any protection, didn't have any underwear.
Wow.
And that's 25% of your education just because you don't have a pair of pants, effectively. So that kind of stuck with me, really frustrated me that something so simple was having such an impact. And I started to look, not knowing anything about it. The sensible approach was to start to look at how could you provide underwear? How do you manufacture it? Discovered that cotton is obviously better for you because it's a natural fiber, but actually conventional cotton is the world's most polluting crop. Huge amount of pesticides, chemicals, insecticides, a lot of water usage, and really not very nice for the people that kind of grow it, from farmers right the way through the production cycle. And then fashion more broadly is nasty. Fast fashion we kind of know about and the harm that causes.
Yeah.
So it was basically pulling those three together. That's the short story, to try and tackle each of those. So we kind of work in 3 main ways in terms of only using organic cotton. So everything is fully fair trade, organic certified. We source sustainably, and we also donate underwear for every pair we sell. So trying to tackle that original problem, but also trying to kind of empower and support through the supply chain. So we're not exploiting on that end either.
So not only are the products themselves made sustainably, but there's also that element of giving back that's built into the business model.
Yeah, and that was something we did from the start because as I said, that's kind of the original thing I wanted to tackle. And we partner primarily with a charity called Smalls for All, who are based outside Edinburgh, Livingston. And they work in the UK and internationally to provide underwear to mostly women and girls that don't have it. So we donate 2 pairs to them for every pair we sell. The Mara prints, which are inspired by Maasai beadwork, support communities in Kenya and Tanzania. And then our pink range, light pink, supports a breast cancer charity called Future Dreams. So they all kind of give back in some way because I kind of wanted, that's the whole point, basically, is kind of making a difference.
It's baked right into the DNA of the whole business model.
Yeah.
So let's just talk a little bit about B Corp then. So if people are listening and they've never heard of it before, how would you describe it? And I'd love to know as well, what made you decide to go for the certification?
Yeah, so B Corps are businesses that have been certified to have, or certified to look at their standards in terms of social and environmental performance and kind of ideally achieving high levels in that, and also being very transparent and very accountable. So it's kind of looking at your impact across everything that you do. You complete a B impact assessment. It's externally verified, so it's a really rigorous process, effectively. And then you're part of that kind of community. And really, it's about showing that business can be a force for good, which was what inspired me to sort of do it in the first place. It's always been up there as a target from when I started the business. We have all the individual kind of certifications around fair trade, around GOTS, living wage, kind of all the different pieces of what we do. But B Corp is the one that sort of sits above or below all of it. And it's a really holistic, it is the most holistic certification and just gives you that, as I said, that kind of overall accreditation. It's externally verified. You have to go through a really tough process to get it. And it's kind of the gold standard, I suppose, in terms of sustainability and just showing that you are walking the talk as much as anything, that you say you do these things, and particularly in fashion and sustainability, which kind of means something and nothing and everything.
Yeah.
There's so much greenwashing that it's a brilliant way of sort of countering some of that. It's not an end point, so it's very much kind of continuous improvement as part of the whole scheme, but it's really about trying to make a difference and show that it's not just financial performance, but actually the social and environmental stuff that counts as well.
And is it something that you have to renew every so often? It's not like you're B Corp for life. You have to kind of prove that you're upholding it.
Yeah, because of that continuous improvement, basically. So it's every 3 years, the certification process. So you recertify. And once you're in, then they encourage you to set goals so that you're continually kind of improving. And there's different working groups. And part of that community is very much about helping people to continue to improve. So the certification itself, that it's an amazing online tool to answer various questions. There's different sort of gateway questions that go through and ask you about everything that you're doing across your business. You need to get 80 points out of the 200 to certify. Mm-hmm. And then you need to hit that or more each 3 years.
Right. So you mentioned that it was a tough process. How long did it take you from start to finish?
It took us about 12 to 18 months. So it is massive. It's one of those things that, I mean, it was actually for us a benefit of lockdown 1, because it kind of gave us, as we stopped doing other things, traveling as much and doing as many events and that kind of stuff, it gave us a chance to step back and do the stuff behind the scenes that you never get the chance to do effectively. So looking at our impact and actually starting to kind of review the questions. It's a free tool. It's available online to anyone. So you can kind of go in, and even if you're not going to submit, you can start to answer the questions and see what work you've got to do. So we did that in March-ish 2020, started really completing it in September. It took us a while to do everything.
Yeah.
And then, so started in September, submitted. My goal was to submit it before the end of the year. And we did it on like the 23rd of December, I think it was. So cutting it fine, but we did it. And then didn't hear anything back for about 9 or 10 months. So through till kind of October, just because it's such a growing kind of movement at the moment. They're really inundated with companies submitting, which is brilliant. But it meant there's quite a delay in kind of going through that certification process. And then that itself is actually quite quick, because they're very keen on taking you through it with kind of fortnightly meetings. They're brilliant at going through, and you basically have to prove everything that you've said So you answer questions in each of it covers community, workers, environment, governance, and customers. And you put your claims and you sort of say what you're doing in each of those areas, and you get points and fractions of points. And then you have to prove it all as part of the verification. So it's a good year plus. I think that's consistent with everybody that does it. It says sort of 12 to 18 months. And then we finally certified in November last year.
I mean, it's incredible, the detail that it goes into, but of course they're going to have to do that. If they're going to put their name against your business, they've got to get the proof of that you're not just saying that you're doing stuff, that you actually have to give them evidence of it.
Yeah, and that's what it's kind of two sides. That's what makes it so tough, but also so valuable, I think, is it really is. You're not just sort of saying these claims. And as I said, kind of all the greenwashing that goes on. It's brilliant to sort of help reassure customers, I suppose, as much as anything, that we're actually doing what we say we're doing.
Yeah, for sure. And do you think that there's a growing customer awareness of B Corp?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to know because I'm in that space and I talk to, it's a little bit of a vacuum and everybody talks to each other. It's like, yeah, of course we all know what it is. I think it is growing. So March every year is B Corp month, and they do a lot of awareness, kind of activations in supermarkets. So Waitrose had quite a lot this year.
Yes, I saw that. The B Corp section.
Yeah, so there's a lot. They actually had a little B Corp shop in London where they pulled all the B Corp brands and kind of had everything together. And it's definitely growing. I mean, they've just hit, I think, 5,000 businesses globally who have certified. It's the highest growing certification. The UK is one of the biggest as well in terms of B Corp businesses and the growth as well. It's definitely increasing, and it's been interesting in our shop because you get a little B Corp, a little wooden kind of thing, and I put something in the window, and it's a brilliant kind of conversation starter. Some people have no idea what it is. Others have actually found us because they've been searching for B Corp businesses and everything in between. But it's a great way of just talking to people. And the Ben & Jerry, the Patagonia, some of the big businesses, but it's designed to work across all sectors, all sizes. We were only 2-3 people when we did it as a product business. So anybody can do it. And that's kind of one of the benefits as well, I suppose.
Yeah, no, completely. And of course, this is the point in which I'd like to mention, which so far you have, I think if I were in your position, I might have been tooting my own horn a bit earlier than this, but you actually were the most highly ranked UK B Corp and the top most sustainable fashion B Corp. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. It was very exciting. So I think they always say submit, as I said, the 80 points is the kind of cutoff.
Yeah.
They always say get over 100 before you submit because they'll knock you back through the verification process. I think we got something like 127 and a half, and all the half points count. It's you kind of fight for every little bit.
Yeah.
And I was fully expecting to go back, but actually we went up through the verification process. I think because we genuinely sort of built the business around the impact.
Yeah.
We were doing a lot more than we gave ourselves credit for, and they are great kind of helping to showcase that. So yeah, we've ended up with 160.5, which is the highest in the UK of all businesses, which I am very proud of. Still are.
Yeah, I mean, that is incredible. That is really incredible. What an amazing vote of confidence in all the work that you've been doing for all these years, really.
Yeah, I mean, it was, I kept refreshing. Every time I saw the number, I was like, really? Refresh, this is amazing. So yeah, really, really exciting. And the top fashion brand in the world.
Wow.
Which is also good from that greenwashing thing, because so many people say, fashion businesses, fast fashion, you can't do it. It's like, yes, you can if you really want to.
Yeah.
So I am incredibly proud and chuffed with that one.
It's just amazing. So I guess if anyone's listening to this and they're thinking, okay, all right, sounds interesting. Do you have any tips, or is there anything that you wish you'd known before you started on the B Corp journey?
Probably how hard it is. I would definitely say do it. I think I would 100% recommend it. It is hard work. It's a big commitment. It's a lot of time and resources, particularly if you are a small business. But I think even if you're not going to submit, the B impact assessment is so good at helping you see where you are as a business in kind of all areas of sustainability, for want of a broad term. And it just improves everything that you do. I also thought we were too small, too kind of young as a business almost. But actually it's brilliant to help you grow, because then you can make those decisions within that framework, and you've got support, you've got other businesses that you can call on. It's an amazing community to be part of. And I think I would 100% recommend it, because whether it's attracting and retaining staff, we've had people contact us who want to work for us because we're a B Corp.
Right.
It really resonates with customers. So not everybody knows about it, definitely, but I think it's growing, as we said. And for our customers who are interested in their kind of impact more broadly and sort of conscious consumers, they really do care about that sort of stuff. And we see it with the questions that we get from people, and we see it with kind of the research that they do on and through our website, that this stuff matters. And so it's brilliant for that, because it's just that stamp that sort of says, we are up there. So I would 100%, even if you're not going to submit, I think the tool is brilliant. And as I said, it's kind of part of being that community. You do need to be committed to it, because it does take time and effort. And the transparency is something that's quite interesting, I think, for some businesses. You have to share everything. And, as businesses, we tend to be kind of quite protective and not share all the financial details and what we are doing, what we're good at, what we're bad at. And it's really transparent. And that's, again, one of its strengths. But I think a lot of people are a bit like, oh, I don't want to share that information. And it's all publicly available. So you have impact reports, and all of your stuff and your score and the breakdown is publicly available. So you can go and then challenge some of the companies that you're thinking of working with, or not, or buying from, or anything else, and you can really see what they're doing. So
it sounds like it's a real tool for having that conversation with the customer.
Definitely. And because it is so holistic, it's kind of, because we find that some people are interested in the donation side of what we do, the kind of giving back, the providing underwear. Some people are interested in the fair trade element. Some are interested in the organic piece of it, or some of the body positive, some of the other kind of things that we do as a business. This tackles all of those, and people can kind of find some way of connecting with you, and you can just start those conversations. And for us, it's a lot about just raising awareness that there are these challenges, there are these positive things that we can all do to kind of improve that. And I think increasingly, because we are going to need to consume in a very different way, then it will become increasingly important as well.
I'm just curious what the kind of most time-consuming elements were. Was it gathering the data? Was it that you had to create policies if you didn't have them already? Was it that you had to look at ways of that you could evidence claims? What was kind of the biggest, or is it just that there's so many different elements that you have to go through, it just takes a long time to kind of comb through it?
I think it's all three of those. So I think my big tip would be to write notes. You go through, and also because of the delay, the time period that you're talking about, you go through and you complete it, and you say that this is what we're doing, in a particular area, this is what we're doing, this is where we score. You've got notes sections, and you've obviously got your own sort of systems and record keeping. It's really valuable to make notes and comments about why you've put that and what the evidence is, because you will have to verify it. And then you come back, and where there's numbers, they ask for turnover numbers and sales, not to monitor kind of how you're doing financially, but just to see where you sit in the sort of scale of businesses.
Yeah.
But in terms of like impact and donations, it's asking for like last year's numbers. It's then another year before you go through, or a period before you go through verification, and you've got 3,678. It's like, where was that from?
Which time frame are we talking about?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's just kind of being really thorough is really worth it. There is a lot where you don't necessarily have the policies. And so it says, what are you doing? And then you've got the ability, because you can complete it and then submit at a later date. So you can kind of go through and say, right, this is actually what we've got to do. That a lot of that elapsed time was very much us saying, right, okay, we need policies for this, and this. We need leave policies. Again, some of it was kind of a bit bigger than we are as a business. So we've got menstrual leave, menopause leave, all these kind of policies that actually were for a team of 2 or 3 isn't necessarily relevant for us at this stage. But actually, it's really good to have that outlined so that when we do recruit people, we've got that real clarity and we've got the values nailed down. And you also have to change your legal structure, so your governance as a business. So that's a potentially time-consuming piece, because you've got to re-upload your documents to Companies House effectively. So you change your articles to basically embed your principles into that structure so that we're not just saying that we donate this stuff, but actually we now have a legal responsibility to follow through on that. So that's governance. That in itself is like 10 points, I think. So it's a massive chunk, which is great, again, because it's actually saying, no, we are now accountable for this stuff. We committed, and you can make that as kind of personal, I suppose, as you want. I've done quite a bit on ours. So our business, our objects are really specific to what we do, because I wanted it to be really personal. I wanted to kind of give us as a business a personality almost, and say, this is identifiably You Underwear. This is what we stand for. These are the values that we work to and what we think is important as a business. And that is reflected in our governance documents on the Companies House website. Anybody can go and see those. So there are some kind of significant changes. And obviously, as a small business, it's relatively easy for me to do that. As a big business, you've got to go through a big structural sign off, if nothing else, board and everything else. So it depends where you are as to which bits take the time. But I think it's the whole process is just very careful. You need to go through it step by step. As I said, the verification itself is actually relatively easy if you've kept those notes and got everything, because you're just uploading stuff. You answer the questions and then they go through and sort of say, right, where's the proof of this? I need this policy. I need these data. And they go through and sort of check it all as well. So.
And do they give you templates? So, for example, if you've got things like menstrual leave or menopause leave, did they say, right, well, here's an example of what you could do? Or did you have to go and research that and engage people independently to write them for you? And
I think a lot of them, there are templates. Well, no, they don't give you templates, is a short answer. But a lot of it, because of the transparency, a lot of businesses, templates and policies and stuff are available. And people will be in that community. They're very good at sharing it as well. So, I mean, those are quite unique examples, I suppose, but around some of our carbon policies and sourcing and suppliers and who we will and won't work with, holiday process, there's all sorts of stuff, which is a small business. Some of it you work to, but you don't often have it written down. And a lot of, flexible policies, which is kind of what your menstruation leave, menopause leave, whatever else is part of. Flexibility around bank holidays, flexible working, lots of stuff that is kind of good practice, which you probably do and you believe in, but you don't often have it written down. So there was a lot of just making a long list and then going through and saying, okay, we're going to create this. In reality, a lot of those documents, they're not that complicated. You just got to kind of get it on paper and say, actually, this is what we're going to do. And we'll continue to kind of evolve the processes or the policies and as we grow. So,
I mean, it sounds actually incredibly valuable from a business standpoint. As you said, that you have all of these documents in place, because as you grow, they'll only become more useful as you grow. So yes, it's a lot of hoops to jump through now, but not only do you get this recognized certification, which, as you said, is growing in awareness and people can see it and helps you with a USP and helps you kind of differentiate yourself as a business. It also means that you've got you've done a thorough sort of due diligence, almost as your corporate governance, which sounds like big words for a small business, but it is one of those areas that small businesses often don't have these things in writing, and how valuable in a way that there can't be that many places where there's that long of a list of tick list. Do you know what I mean? To go through to go, right, well, what should I have to be a good corporate citizen? What should I have? And that's exactly what B Corp's doing. It sounds like it's...
Yeah. And as I said, you don't have to have all of those in place. It's kind of picking what's relevant to you, what's important to you. A lot of it is best practice in terms of having staff handbooks, having policies, actually writing it down that, as you say, you don't necessarily have when you're starting out, but actually puts us in very good stead as we grow the team. We've kind of got a lot of this stuff now. We've thought through it all. And I think that's half of it, is just kind of going, what do we want to be as a business? How do we want to work? A lot of it, because it is about people and planet, effectively, it's just being a good person, good employer, good business, and kind of caring about the people that you work with and recognizing that they are important through everything that you're doing. So your staff and employees, people you work with, your suppliers, they all have a kind of role in it. And I think that's what's so nice about it, is it really makes you kind of almost respect that through every level. So you're not just going out to do it in the cheapest possible way. you're going to sort of think about the impact right the way through. And how many of the manufacturers that we work with, are they employing people in marginalized communities? Are they employing women? Are they employing other minorities? And what are you just, sort of the way that you work more broadly just makes you much more aware, even if you're not doing all of this stuff. And a lot of it, going back to that continuous improvement, it's kind of, well, this is where we want to be. We're right, we're not there yet, but we're going on these steps, and it helps us look at how we develop and grow in the future. So I think it's really valuable with stuff like that, because it just makes you more aware of the impact that you're having, and your packaging, your fuel, everything. Can you use more environmentally friendly measures when you're working at home? Can you encourage your staff to do that, to switch to renewable energy? What's the impact of your office building if you have that? What's the impact of everything? And you're a bit more conscious of it. So I think whether you're going for it as a certification, whether you're going for top score or not, it's more just really encourages you to kind of do better as a business.
Yeah, sounds like an invaluable exercise, to be honest, even if it is one that presumably it's not like a full-time endeavor for a certain number of months. It's something you have to kind of keep chipping away at.
No, I mean, when I said it took us I wasn't working fully on that. It's very much you are running the business, but it's one of those, and that's kind of almost nice in itself. That's why it took us 12 to 18 months, because it was just something that we could plug away at when we had a bit more time. You've got to do this stuff, and you also have a bit of time between submitting and the evidence to kind of fill some of those gaps as well. So you can that's why we also improved, because when we submitted, we didn't necessarily have everything in place, but 9 months later, we'd moved forwards and done quite a lot of work to change that. So yeah, I think it's definitely valuable.
Do you think it's feasible if somebody has obviously an interest in sustainability? Because a lot of people who start small businesses will have done their own research, they'll have educated themselves about sustainability, about their eco-credentials as a business to an extent already. But do you think that the B Corp certification is achievable if you're somebody who's maybe not got a technical background in development issues and that kind of thing? Is it sort of something that's accessible?
Yeah, because again, you only need, the 80 points. So the average business in the UK, I think they estimate, would get about 50, 55
right,
if they just did it. So that's without any consideration of your impact and kind of any attempt to be sustainable.
Right.
And that includes very sustainable businesses. The other end of the spectrum is ones that are really not the most considerate in kind of what they're doing. So if your average is 50, then it is above that, but it is also, so you've got to make some sort of effort. But as I said, you can kind of do that in different ways. So if you're really careful about your customer data and you don't spam people and you're careful with, opt-outs and stuff like that, which is, again, just good practice.
Yeah.
If you respect your staff and employees and have kind of fair working conditions, living wage, all the things that, again, are kind of pieces of your business, then you get the credit for each of those. So there'll be a lot of people and businesses that are doing more of this than they necessarily give themselves credit for. I think to hit the 80, there are businesses that certify with 80.5, and that's right. Okay. There's still a B Corp. There's no difference.
Yeah.
They are no less of a B Corp than we are. It's exactly the same. And I think then you're in that community and they really support you to kind of improve, grow. They want to kind of help businesses and help each other because they're all trying to kind of effectively achieve the same thing and being that sort of force for good. So I think there is often work to do. We've all got work to do. But yeah, I do think it's not my background at all, any of this. So I've done it just from kind of research, thinking about what I want to do, the way I want to run my business and kind of what's important to me, putting some of that down on paper that I probably wouldn't have done otherwise, and then just continually sort of improving those bits and saying, actually, when we get bigger, our packaging, we started off with recycled plastic. It then went to biodegradable, then it's compostable. Eventually it'll be paper. It's kind of just those small steps that we are all trying to do something towards, and you just get credit for each of those little changes. So,
well, thank you so much. It's absolutely fascinating. I love hearing about the process. It also sounds like an exciting goal to aim for as well. I'd love to ask you, this is slightly off topic, but it's been the theme that I've been asking podcast guests, especially the product businesses who've been on, to share with us a moment of resilience. So a time that you've had to be resilient in running Y.O.U underwear. And what was it and how did you manage it?
Just the one.
Just the one. I know, had to pick one.
No, my first thought was like all the time. I think that is part of running a small business, part of running a sustainable business. You have to be. So, well, when I set it up in the first place, apart from being in Uganda, I broke my leg out there badly.
Oh, no.
Broke my ankle and didn't really realise. So spent 6 weeks kind of doing stuff, including running a marathon with a broken ankle. And so spent the next 15 months on crutches, unable to leave the house without anybody else. So there was a first bit of resilience in kind of getting this off the ground was because I literally couldn't walk.
Wow.
That gives you some of the skills to carry on, I suppose. And I think the challenge we've had for us, we've not had a normal year, I think has been the biggest recurring. So it's not necessarily one moment of resilience, but we've had 2018 is an obvious one. You get started. 2019, I had co-founder issues. And then 2020 speaks for itself. And that was at one level a very strong year because everybody was online. At the time, we were predominantly an online business. They were shopping from home. They were thinking about their impact a little bit and supporting small businesses. And they wanted comfy underwear being at home. So that was good. But that came together with supply issues.
Yeah.
With Brexit hit us hugely and killed about 25% of our business. And then we hit that, which was a great measure of success, but has an impact. And so we've never had, and then 2021, when the shops opened, people didn't want to be online anymore. And our sales just dropped off a cliff really quickly.
No such thing as business as usual.
There's no business as usual. Certainly there hasn't been at this time. And I think that's going to continue for a bit because as stuff opens, closes, there's new challenges, supply chain stuff, economy. We've just gone into physical retail, which is why. There's another bit of resilience because that's really hard. And to do that with, again, no experience and trying to do it myself. I've worked 7 days a week in the shop for 4 months straight.
Wow.
Through to Christmas and then another couple of months after that. So it's all challenging, but I think that is part of running a small business. And that's kind of one of the joys, almost in a funny way, as well as the difficulties, is that you get through that and you learn from all of it. And if you can keep going through it, then it gives you great resilience because it's kind of, if we've survived this, then
we can survive anything.
Hopefully. I'll live to regret that one. But I think, that's so not answering your question at all in terms of one moment of resilience. But I think it's all
many moments.
Many moments.
Well, thank you so much. I really enjoyed our chat. Do you want to finish off by telling everyone where they can find out more about you?
Yes. So our website is Y.O.U underwear, Y.O.U underwear, all one word. All the usual sort of social channels of Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, etc. We are at Y.O.U underwear UK. And if you're in Oxford, we have a little shop.
Thank you so much for tuning in. I'd love to hear what you thought about today's episode. Why not come over to Instagram at Resilient Retail Club and drop me a DM and let me know what you thought about the episode and have you considered going for B Corp certification? I also love to see it when you share your photos of where you're listening to the podcast. So do tag me in if you're out and about somewhere. I always love to see that. Of course, if you have a moment to rate and review the podcast, it makes a huge difference in getting it out to more people. And if you have a moment to subscribe or follow, you'll be the first to know about every new episode. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, then I invite you to check out resilientretailclub.com. The Resilient Retail Club is the membership for anyone wanting to start, grow or scale a profitable product business. No more trawling Google trying to find the answers to your questions or wading through general business advice that speaks mainly to service-based businesses. Whether you're still at the idea stage or you've been going for a while but want to get more focused and organised when it comes to your business, the Resilient Retail Club is the place for you. With a library of courses tailored to creative product businesses, several live sessions a month, and a supportive and active community, the Resilient Retail Club is the perfect membership to help you hit your goals faster. Check it out at resilientretailclub.com.